Hi, everyone. I'm incredibly humbled to be here today. Who here has a PhD? Yeah, I'm currently working on it. Yeah, so, well, I know I'm in the right place because it's good to be in a room full of smarter people than myself. I'm incredibly humbled and grateful for the invitation and to be here with you all today. Today, I am exploring with you where frontier innovation meets community stewardship and where opportunities lie, potentially in forging pathways for a more resilient and regenerative future. But before we go on this exploration, today we're not really exploring the pale blue dot space. We have to set the scene so that we're all on the same page. The Planetary Boundaries framework presents 9 critical processes and systems that maintain the stability and resilience for our planet. In September 2023, scientists found that 6 out of 9 of the planetary boundaries have been crossed. Earth is now well outside of the safe operating space. And this goes far beyond environmental. We're talking about health, we're talking about security, we're talking about social, we're talking about economic instability. And the latest estimates, which actually was earlier this month, project 32 trillion in losses per year by mid of the century, with 17% lower global GDP from an economic perspective due to the climate crisis. A separate study estimates that there will be over 1 billion of people displaced, climate refugees, by mid-century. But that is if we continue this path. Well, even from a financial lens, the cost of mitigation is actually far outweighed the potential damages. So even if you're a financial accountant, it makes sense that we figure that out. And with this acceleration of warming over the past 50 years, we are actually very close to tipping points before all these combined pressures lead to irreversible changes. And climate scientists reminded us that the window of opportunity is narrowing, but it is there. So we live in very pivotal times. And at such pivotal times, sustainability, honestly, is far from enough. We can't just be saying that we're going to be reducing our negative impact. We need pathways for regeneration. By regeneration, it means that positive impact for the society, for the systems. It means restoring ecosystems, revitalizing communities, actively contributing positively to social and planet. This is Australia. And I'm here today because we are living in this time whereby, yes, there is complex, cascading, connecting challenges in all kinds of levels, but we also are empowered with innovations, technology, and tools to bring out resilient and regenerative future. So let me start with my story of the question that has been in my mind all these times, working in the forefront of technology, financial, the fastest growing companies in the region, the pioneering people who are building out all these financial use cases in the name of democratizing finance. But whether I was in that room or whether I was actively working with all these social innovative innovation initiatives in Cambodia and Myanmar and rural China, in all parts of the world with the grassroots communities, the things that have been in my mind all this whole decade is how do you scale all these efforts in the grassroots communities? How do you scale inclusive finance with all these powerful technologies that people claim to be using to democratize finance? What I discovered again and again is that it's not just about doing things that scale. it's not about using the same way that people build ventures in, let's say, venture capital-backed companies. We actually hold a lot of wisdom in the communities. And those communities are land stewards, people who have been there for so long, know about the culture and know the kind of problems that they're facing uniquely. And if you look at social innovations about the success of solar cookers, it hasn't really been about building something the most functional. It has been about learning what the people want to make their food taste good. That's the implementation starting points. They know their challenges better than anyone else. So if they're not included in the design process, then we won't really have much good solutions there. So I want to share with you a story about Soup Hop. So Soup Hop story is shared with by Michael, who stewards a regenerative rubber project in northern Thailand. So Soup Hop stories is that in pre-1980, he is a rubber farmer. He is growing rice fields, but at the same time, he gets all kinds of vegetables, fruits, wildlife, and they were able to sell not just rubber, but also essentially forest yields. So wild honey, resins. They live in abundance with limited monetary exchange, not so much of money exchange, but they live in abundance. But then things change as the shift of policies to nudge them towards modernized agriculture, more efficient agriculture, essentially monoculture, cash crops, growing that. And that means getting more land to grow food. That also means that they had to grow less diverse food. And that also means that they are wiping out wildlife. But at the same time, they also needed more money. They needed more money to buy, let's say, fuel, machinery, to pay for that, to buy fertilizers, to buy seedlings, but also to pay for their food. And that results in lots of farmers actually nudge towards financial distress and into predatory loan sharks regional and into losses. So Soup Hop and also other farmers actually had foresight as to what works well. But then they had the system shift that forced them out of it. So how do we actually really embed this kind of design process to improve this process? So let me ask, I can't ask those who are dialing in online, but who in here would classify themselves as foodie? Yeah. And who here would be like, I eat to survive? Well, the rest, right? But it doesn't really matter. I think food is not a controversial topic, but food is a topic that unites a lot of people. Well, for wherever I go, I would be able to see, even in Australia, Asians who would have long queues just to get into restaurants. Everyone has their point of view of where to get the best food. But food is also, well, challenging at this point in time. From a macro perspective, I was interested in environment or so-called climate crisis, not just because it was a crisis, but because it matters. It matters when I was trying to get eggs in Taiwan and we run out of eggs. It matters because you like chocolate and chocolate may not be available. It matters because, well, it's not just causing famine, which is very important, but it is daily crisis that we face. And it is estimated that recently, yes, food crisis is caused by things like war for sure, but the other contribution is extreme climate. The thing is, 5 out of 6 farms in the world consist of less than 2 hectares and actually produce 1/3 of the world's food. So at the same time, the food system is responsible for about 1/3 of the global GHG emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, and agriculture expansion to grow food also means responsible around 80% of global tropical deforestation. So this is both a challenge in terms of and opportunity, because it means that there's opportunity to improve livelihood of the farmers, solve the food crisis in terms of resiliency, but at the same time also improve the well-being of the world. The interesting part about this is that when I go to a lot of climate tech conference and appreciate tech perspective for sure, but the genius usually is not necessarily tech, it's actually nature. So one of the most powerful carbon capture technology, it's not a machine, it's photosynthesis of plants and microorganisms in healthy soil, something that we learned in primary school. May have forgotten, but still, it's relevant. Regenerative agriculture is a pathway forward. As I said, we're exploring pathways, and today we're anchoring on one pathway first. So it's a pathway forward. It encompasses like different ways, wide range of farming, grazing practices aimed at restoring soil health through sequestration of soil organic carbon. And healthier soil means that the soil can sequester more water, it stores more water, it has more nutrition, it means more crops for people, and potentially there's some research that says also more nutritious. At the same time, healthy soil can sequester carbon better. So this means we actually have a huge opportunity, but regenerative farming practice is great for long term, but transition is hard. Doesn't necessarily mean that you get good yields the first year you transit, and also complex depending on what you're growing. And I don't pretend to be a farming expert here. And well, it is challenging. So how do we design systems whereby people are not only growing food, but people who are growing food in a way that is better for our planet actually can do more of this or reward this kind of work. And this is what Terragenesis is doing in Thailand for farmers like Supap. They are supporting the revitalization of this type of farming, actually called Wana Kaset farming, which means agroforestry and self-reliance in Thai. Apparently, Tan attested to Thai, even though I was there for 2 years. But here's the key. They are not there to be teaching farmers, hey, this is how you grow your food. No, the farmers know that agroforestry actually helps them grow better food, grow better rubber, and also become more resilient. They already know it, but Terragenesis magic is bridging companies like North Face, Timberland, who demand rubber, and bridging supply is what they're doing. But not only do they do that, they're not just a broker here, they also improve the access of resources, information, institutional support, for example, bridging, let's say, ecoacoustic technology to monitor the biodiversity changes in that place. So it's not really about replacing what they're doing, but actually also incentivizing, trying to bridge more people to adopt that by saying that, hey, this is a better option than burning an environmental protection site for agriculture. It restores ecological ecosystem, but not only that's the case, but also that you get monetary incentives. So what does it look like? I would like to share the video. I'm not sure if actually just to give like a minute and a half.
ผมเป็นฝรั่งอยู่แต่ผมไม่ได้เป็นบอกว่าต้องทำอย่างนี้องค์ความรู้อยู่นี่จริงๆอยู่ตั้งเดิมตั้งแต่มีสวนต้นรมมีป่ายางมาก่อนคือแค่ปล่อยให้คนที่นี่ทำสิ่งที่ดีสนับสนุนบ้างการทำวรรณเกษตรสวนยางเนี่ยมันไม่ได้มีผลกระทบต่อสิ่งแวดล้อมหรือต่อเจ้าของสวนเลยนะคะหรือแม้กระทั่งต่อน้ำยางเนี่ยก็ไม่ได้มีผลกระทบอะไรเลยแล้วมันยังช่วยส่งเสริมให้สิ่งแวดล้อมเนี่ยดีขึ้นฟื้นฟูเรื่องของระบบเกษตรระบบดินระบบน้ำเนี่ยดียิ่งขึ้นทั่วโลก ที่เป็นวิกฤตต่างๆเป็นวิกฤตดินวิกฤตน้ำวิกฤตความหลากหลายทางชีวภาพโลกร้อนดินฟ้าอากาศไม่แน่นอนไฟป่าเดี๋ยวนี้ถ้าเป็นบริษัทใหญ่ๆเห็นว่ามันสำคัญว่าจะต้องอยู่ตั้งแต่ต้นทางเป็นปลายทางจะมีความยั่งยืนยังไงวัตถุดิบที่เราซื้อมาจากไหนผลิตแบบไหนซึ่งที่ศึกษาแบบทั่วโลกวิธีการปลูกยางพาราที่มันฝืนฟูความอุดมสมบูรณ์ได้ดีที่สุดก็เป็นวิธีการที่เราเจอที่ภาคใต้ประเทศไทยที่เราเรียกว่าส่วนอย่างแบบพนักเกษตรเป็นคำตอบของนี่หมดทำให้ดินดีขึ้นเพิ่มความหลากหลายทางชีวภาพช่วยเก็บกักคาร์บอนในดินในพืชเป็นที่อยู่อาศัยของสัตว์ป่ามีบริษัทที่เห็นชอบในเรื่องนี้เห็นว่าจะต้องมีความรับผิดชอบในโลกนี้ก็ลงทุนอาจจะต้องจ่ายแพงกว่านิดนึงเพื่อสนับสนุนให้เกษตรกรทำสิ่งที่ดีมากเกิดทำให้ป่ามันขึ้นมาในสวนยางมันง่ายกว่าที่เราจะต้องเอาที่ดินจากชาวบ้านไปอื่นเป็นป่าก็เราใช้มิติเศรษฐกิจเป็นอีกมิติหนึ่งที่จะสนับสนุน ผมเป็นฝรั่งอยู่แต่ผมไม่ได้เป็นบอกว่า
Not intended to play it again. Okay. Oh, there's echo now. Sorry? Oh. This is doing, and they're also trying to scaling it. My audio. Oh, yes, I understand now. Okay, hello. Great, sorry. Okay, so just now it's the project's Terragenesis. They are working in northern Thailand and specifically on transitioning on rubber into regenerative rubber. And these cases are very powerful cases, and it's important to have cases on the ground that this is happening. And it's just, as mentioned, it's not actually just technology, but it's a lot of the innovation that is happening on the ground as well, and rethinking and redesigning economics. I would like to showcase how actually things can scale. And this is Open Food Network, actually started here in Australia. It connects around 2,000 food producers with 15,000 shoppers across the nations, specifically local farmers. The thing that it's very powerful and transformative is actually it's open source. Open source means that communities can contribute, deploy, and modify versions of it. And especially if you have engineering skills, and if you don't right now, maybe with the AI help, it can help you to accelerate that. It is community powered. It means that food enterprises can sell their products on the platform for free. But if you have monetization of certain point, sales revenue, doing great sales, then it will contribute around 2 to 3% from the sales revenue to contribute to having new features for this platform. It connects buyers essentially directly to farmers, independent food business with no intermediaries. And it's amazing. A lot of resources is on the platform. And not only that, it means that because it's open source, people can spin out new platforms like this one, like Regenerative Agriculture Australia. So regenerative agriculture has been continuously getting more and more interest and implementation, but it's still not a perfect pathway. There's no certifications, but there's potentially ways to be having more trust and relationships between the consumers as well as the buyers. That is not just in Australia, that is also in Brazil. In Brazil, Econavi has been connecting agroforesters that are, as I mentioned before already, that smallholders, farmers actually make up at least 1/3 of food supply, and it's predominantly, especially the case in terms of places like Brazil. So what happens is that these kind of agroforesters are able to sell their products and share about these kind of wholesome events or farmers market that you can go to, and also share resources, because sharing resources means that, oh, how do I grow this better? Or how can I also monetize my ecological impact, which is now enabled by a realm of finance called regenerative finance in the blockchain space. It is still under development, continuous development, but platforms like Econavi essentially is helping small farmers to be able to tap into these kind of financing opportunities. And this is to showcase another, what is a tech-enabled one, is Ecometric partnered with Regen Network to create a standard for generating soil organic carbon credits, so that farmers can earn verified carbon credits directly from their regenerative practice by improving soil health. As a recap, the soil health improvement of soil health will help to sequester carbon. And Ecometric is helping farmers to be measuring and monitoring them, making it possible to verify on Regen Network registry, which runs on blockchain, and also to be purchasable by global buyers. Okay, so here's the regenerative pathways we've talked about and how it's kind of supercharged by innovation. And when I mean by supercharged, I mean that it has to be that innovation meets community. It can't be like you do your own thing and fly in a venture scaling necessarily approach. And because, for example, Terragenesis was not a broker who was extracting from the farmers. They were learning the best practice of farmers, knowing that they are already growing agroforestry, doing great work for the ecological benefits, but at the same time growing foods to help them further capture that, bridge them to institutional buyers. That's a kind of bridge that is unique and builds a different way. The other ones are, for example, community-powered network and peer-to-peer marketplace like Open Food Network and Econavi. I don't see them just as a marketplace. They are very transparent. They are openly built. They're essentially community-owned networks that provide also information resources to support each other in the network. Regen Network and Ecometric is not just issuing credits to farmers. Farmers, they are actually empowered to develop and own their own credits so that they decide that they hold or they sell, and it's transparent for direct access to market. So we talk about pathways, and the term pathways means that like you and I, maybe everyone may have different paths and we're not in the same page. To solve what the current challenge that we have, it's not just about everyone going the same direction. If it's like that, I'm pretty sure that we won't have this crisis at all. So everyone can walk different paths. But how I see it is that there is some fundamental alignment that is required for the success in saving the planet or ourselves, is that projects are embracing open principles. And open source specifically enables communities and especially software engineers and engineers to build and develop their own tools, as mentioned, and now enable that for me without a technical ability, I may be able to attempt that as well. Open data is important because, well, information exchange across networks is important. The other thing is accessibility, making sure that the knowledge and resources reach everyone who needs them is what makes it possible to drive things at scale. So the open principles means that it doesn't matter whether you consider communities, whether they're on the ground, or whether communities as in one of us, right? So one of us want to contribute, whether you're a researcher or whether you're an engineer or you're a farming expert. We can be co-creating and governing and enable regeneration. I mentioned about that we're in a very specific time right now of opportunities as well. And that is actually something called Web3 and AI. And I see them as possibility of accelerating community-led regenerative system. Web3 allows us to be specifically using blockchain technology and digital assets to essentially redesign financial systems. So don't read the headlines or skip the headlines on had the use cases of tokenization of on crypto. Um, Look at those that is undercovered. Web3 are not meant to be migrating one extractive system to another extractive system. It was actually meant to be programmable by everyone to design the economics you want to. So that means that if we're in a regenerative mindset, we can redesign the economics to be rewarding for stakeholders, not just capital holders. And that is the intention of it. AI. So yes, there can be infinite discussion about how AI ethical issues or environmental issues, but essentially it can be leveraged to provide and drive sustainability solutions. And sustainability is not enough, so regenerative solutions. And for me, I personally have been focusing on or dreaming about planetary digital commons. So for things to be able to collaborate and actually really contribute to planetary scale challenges, it can't be that real estate property developers have more information than homeowners or insurers. It has to be as open as possible for everyone to be collaborating. And this is important. So I won't go through an infinite showcase of all the projects that I think is on the right track, but it's just an example. Let's say on the left top corner, Declimate. Declimate is a marketplace. They are building in decentralized climate data infrastructure. It means that the intention would be for people to be sharing data data sources or the data sets there. It doesn't mean that everything is free, but then at least it means that data sets is open and accessible. SoilStack on the right, it's an open source platform that leverages public digital soil maps and satellite data and run algorithms to optimize locations for collecting soil samples. So soil samples is important of the soil and to know that the methodology you're using is also improving, whether it's for your food or food farming or sequestering carbon. But that processes can also be expensive. So the idea is to how to do smart soil sampling. Open Ecoacoustic is on the bottom right corner. It's actually an Australia project I discovered during in preparation for my audience here in Australia. It's an open platform that enables sharing of ecoacoustic data and helps everyone to be everyone who tries to or has the expertise to collaborate together to enable monitoring of the environments. And this is large scale and long-term acoustic data collection. And of the scale, it's first of its kind, to my understanding as well, that allows people to be working on protecting threatening species, understand any kind of projects that we have may have positive or indirect impact to, let's say, food security, biodiversity, and conservation risks. Gain Forest example is actually using Web3 properly. It's a decentralized platform that combines Web3 and AI and create transparent outcome-based conservation funding, specifically also involving indigenous communities. So biodiversity data is very limited in the global south in a lot of places where actually regeneration efforts is required. And by involving communities to be involved to collect those data, teaching them how to use devices to collect these data, but also helping them to be getting providing to monetize for what they're doing as well, and incorporating in the design process, in the data governance process is also a great project. Okay, so thank you for your attention up to this point. Usually I leave the wrap up of every sharing session quite open, but I think I have a key message here this time. We're 52 months, if I calculated correctly, from 2030. Apparently, by then we would have run out of our carbon budget. The time to act was yesterday or 50 years ago. The next best time is essentially now. So we can flip the script and we can watch AI, blockchain, Web3, frontier technologies accelerate the extraction and loss of resilience of people and our planet. Or we can decide to act in ways that leverage these capabilities to accelerate towards resilient, regenerative, and inclusive futures, or add everything that you like in the positive words to it. We really need everything everywhere all at once. And as much as every other day, I would be very concerned about how we're using technologies. I think optimism is a decision, and I don't think we have much choice. So thank you everyone for joining. And it's been a privilege and honor to be here with you all today. Thank you.